Hi, Dr Meg here. I just want to give you some tips that I've found work in practice to try to get the biggest litters that you possibly can and optimise litter size. So I do talk to a lot of breeders, and I've been in the game for nearly 30 years myself. I've tried everything and I've heard everything. And I just want to let you know that a lot of you out there and myself in the past aren't really optimising your mating management to get the biggest possible litters. So I'll give you some examples. People, for example, who just put the bitch and the dog into a honeymoon suite and leave them to it, and don't really, are not really looking over the shoulder of what's happening, and they just hope and assume that the mating will occur at the right time and leave it to the dog and the bitch to get on with it. There's a lot of problems with that. For a start, you don't know whether they've actually mated or not because you haven't actually seen it happen. And, sometimes they just can't get it together. A lot of the times the male and female aren't really into each other, even if she's actually ready. Some males just don't like that particular female, and some females might not like that particular male. So, they might not get it together at all. And I think about 1 in 3 situations is actually like that, where they're not attracted to each other. So that can happen. The other thing that can happen is that the male can injure his penis. And I don't know how many times it's happened to you. It's certainly happened a lot of times to me. Not that I've injured my penis, obviously, but my male has withdrawn from the bitch and then ended up with the end of his penis caught outside the sheath, because hair and that will roll back over, and then it gets hurt and then it swells up, which makes it even harder for it to withdraw back into the sheath. So, it's not meant to be outside, and it can get hurt, and that can put him off and even stop him from being able to achieve a proper mating for quite some time. So another thing that can go wrong is that the male can try when she's not actually ready yet. And often they will either, do it successfly and waste a lot of semen at times when the eggs are not even ready for fertilization yet, or he won't achieve a mating and he'll end up emptying himself onto the floor. So when the time comes for the actual fertilization optimum period to occur, when he does do a mating, then he won't have as strong a load of viable sperm in there. It's a finite resource. They can't just conjure up, magic up a nice big load of sperm at any old time. If they're getting used a lot, then the number of sperm per dose goes down. So if you want the optimum number of sperm, maximise the number of sperm getting to the eggs that are available so that every egg available gets fertilised, then it makes sense to actually make sure you get a mating at the right time and don't use him at all when it is not the right time. So that's what I found, and the way I found out and learnt that lesson myself was having a lot of bitches coming on heat at the same time, even outside bitches happening to come on heat at the same time as my bitches, all ready to mate at the same time, all wanting to use my boy. And so the way I used to handle it was I would just alternate. Each bitch would get mated every second day. So if I had 3 bitches on the go, then that meant he would be used twice on some days. So what ended up happening most of the time in that situation was one of the bitches would not get pregnant. So you can easily overuse your sire, and that's what I'm saying you shouldn't be doing if you want to have big litters or not miss out at all. So what do I recommend? What I do now is I use vaginal cytology, and vaginal cytology is simply, if you don't know what it is, you just put a moistened cotton bud into the vagina, you rub it around the roof of the vagina of the bitch, and then you pull it out and you roll it onto a clean glass slide, You let it dry, you spray it with fixative, and then once it's dry, you put it into a red dye and a blue dye, and then when it's almost dry, or dry enough, you put it under a microscope. You can tell by looking at the cells whether she's kind of still in early heat or whether she's actually in true estrus. In true estrus, the cells change their appearance totally. So typically at that time, she'll also, the bleeding will be starting to diminish as well, but that's not a good enough indicator. So that's why we do the vaginal cytology. So vaginal cytology, once the cells are what we call cornified, they change their appearance, then that is the beginning of estrus, and it doesn't change, the cells don't change their appearance for 5 to 7 days of estrus. So we can't tell from vaginal cytology when the best time for mating is. We can't tell when ovulation occurs, but that is a great indicator. We can tell when we should start progesterone testing. If you do progesterone testing in the period before proper estrus, which is called proestrus, when she's just started bleeding and she's just come on heat, been on heat for a few days but not in proper estrus yet, you're blowing your money basically, or you're wasting your progesterone tests. So, that's why it's better to invest in having a vaginal cytology kit at home. It's going to save you a lot of money and the hassle of having to go to the vet, have the blood taken off her and, pay for the progesterone test and then bring her home again, and then back you go again in a couple of days, do it again and do it again and do it again. So save that for when it's actually going to count, which is in estrus. So, okay, we've reached estrus. You're starting to do your progesterone tests. I use a in-home one, which is just what's it called, a qualitative test. They're called Target. I get them from the USA. And they give me a colour code to let me know what stage she's at. And I find them really useful. And you can use, a quantitative test, either at home or at the vets, but all of them need blood. They have to have blood to work. So I do my tests, and the test will tell me when she's ovulating. Now, 3 days after ovulation is when the eggs are actually mature enough to actually be fertilized. So what I do in my case is, if I have a lot of bitches need mating at the same time, then I will wait until the eggs are 2 days post-ovulation and 1 day away from maturation, and that's when I'll do my AI, because it takes 12, or my natural mating, it takes 12 hours for the semen to wriggle their way to where the eggs are. So you don't want to miss out, because the eggs will age and die very quickly after they are mature. So if you do the natural mating or AI with fresh sperm, it's best done 2 days after ovulation, and that will actually get you the biggest possible litter. If you don't have a lot of bitches waiting in line, then I would do her twice. I would do her at ovulation, because the sperm can last at least 3 days in the vaginal tract, in the uterus, and then I would do it again when the cells are actually mature, the egg cells mature at 2 days post-ovulation. So that way we're sparing him, because he hasn't been used except on those occasions. When we do use him, we're going to end up with a nice, thick, creamy semen sample full of lots and lots of sperm, and we know that there's a really good chance that every egg that she releases is going to get fertilized. So I hope that you find this very helpful, and that it actually helps you get a bigger litter next time and from here on in. And that's all for now. See you later.